Thanks, Neha. Thanks for the kind words. Neha is a dear friend of mine. She's been a friend of mine for a few years now, and we go back. We go back a certain amount of time, and she is one of my close circles. So when she asked me to be a part of this, and I know how hard she's been working at, establishing and the founding sort of a batch at Sai University, and she asked me to be a part of this. I said it's my pleasure and privilege to actually interact with young minds like you guys. And I have had a few sessions like this in the past. And I always believe that while you may learn something from me, maybe something I say will resonate with you, but I will definitely learn something from you guys and even from your questions. So, I mean, how do we do this? I can tell you a little bit about myself. I mean, a little more in detail than what Neha has already told. Or are there some questions you want to ask, or maybe I can just give a little bit of an introduction on myself, and then maybe if you have any questions, and feel free to ask. Should we do that, Neha?
Yes, please.
How do
It
we
would be
do that?
nice if you can talk about your journey, what
Sure.
made you start, how have you reached here,
Sure.
and then we'll see if the students want to ask you questions in between. They're more than welcome, or
Sounds
we'll just
good.
see how it goes. It has to
Yeah,
be
let's do it
interactive at the end of the
extempo.
day.
Yeah, let's do it extempo. So, you guys are just starting out your careers, or you're like 17,
You're on
18.
mute, Kavita.
So, oh, no, I'm not.
Sorry. Huh.
Sorry. So, can you hear me? All good? Okay. So, you all are around 17, 18. Let me start from when I was that age. I actually, unfortunately for me, did really well in my 10th standard board exams. I did exceedingly well, and then everybody expected me in those days. It was, I don't know how it is now. I think things have changed, but in those days, if your father told you to take science and become a doctor, you would take science and try to become a doctor. So that's what I did. I took science in my 11th standard in my college, and the idea was my grandparents were doctors, so the idea was to take forward the family legacy. And because I had done well in my boards, I became the guinea pig. So I decided to do science, but my heart wasn't really in it. And I believe if your heart isn't in something, then it usually reflects in your performance. So I didn't do that well as expected in my 12 boards. Then I decided to take up microbiology, because that was the closest that you would get to being a probably doing medicine, right? So I took up microbiology, and I did that for about 3 years. But again, while I enjoyed the subject, I felt like, the kind of careers that are available to people after microbiology. You can become a scientist, or you can do your PhD, or you can become a research assistant. As I was growing, I was, I think, around 18, 20, around that time. I realized that, no, around 18, I realized that maybe this was not something that was suited to my personality. I was a lot more like a people's person. I wanted to interact with people, and I didn't really want to make a career in a profession that was that essentially required you to sit hunched over a microscope in a laboratory for 8 hours in the day. So I said, this is not for me. And again, I felt it requires courage to say no, that this is not what I want to do. But I was very clear that if my heart was not in it, then I would say so. I would express myself. So then I decided to do my MBA. And luckily, I took my CET, got into one of the top 3 colleges in Bombay. I did my MBA in marketing, and then I got on campus placement with a media company, Times of India. So I worked with Times of India, and from there I went on to work with various different multinationals. I was working with the Warner Brothers. I was working with HBO. There's a company called Turner International, which owns CNN and Cartoon Network. I was working with them for about 7 years. After that, I worked with Viacom. Viacom is the company that owns Colors, CNBC, MTV. So I worked with them for a few years, and I was part of the international team. So that required me to travel the world. I was probably in a different country every few months. And by that time, I think as I was growing up, I also realized that I was quite inclined towards fashion. I really enjoyed fashion. And when I was growing up, when I was in college, and I didn't have access to these things. So you don't realize, when you don't have access to something, you don't realize it is something that would interest you. But once I started working, and I was earning, and then I was spending on myself, I realized that buying, putting together clothes, dressing up every day, those kind of things really interested me. And I'm sure they interest a lot of girls, but I was kind of obsessed. I used to really enjoy it. Like, even going to work, I used to really be put together properly. Like, it's something I took great pleasure and great interest in. So as I was growing up, I realized that this is something that I really, really was excited about. And then when I was traveling during my international marketing days, I started realizing, I would go shopping for shoes, whichever part of the globe I was in, and I would always feel like, yeah, why are these kind of shoes not available in India? Like, why doesn't we have very few options for women, like in terms of, be it style, be it colors, be it quality, be it comfort. I always found this need gap. And I think it just started with this interest, and then it turned into a passion, and then it turned into an obsession. And I used to, subconsciously find myself like redesigning shoes I would see somewhere. And then, I realized, I said, yeah, one life. I want to do something of my own, and I want to do something in fashion, and I want to do something in with shoes. And I think also, maybe I was a lot older by then. I was, in my mid 30s, and I decided that, I had financially, I was secure. I had earned, I had savings, and I also felt like I had more confidence in my abilities to do things. And I also felt like I had the marketing know-how. Plus, I was very interested in fashion. So then I decided I'm going to quit my job, and I am going to study shoe designing, and I'm going to launch my own label. So that was about 6 years back. And then I actually quit my job, and I went to Milan. I studied. So there is a college in Milan called Ars Tutoria, which is known as the footwear university of the world. So there I studied collection development and designing. And then I went to London School of Fashion to study handmade shoemaking. So there you actually make shoes. So I did those two courses. And then finally in 2016 and 17, I launched my label. It's called Only 2 Feet. It's been 5 years. And we are today available across 20 cities in India. We're available across the globe. We sell in UAE, we sell in Europe, in UK, in US. We also have a studio out of in Juhu in Mumbai, from where we make bespoke footwear, which is customized footwear, and we also make footwear for differently abled feet. Somebody who's needs some prosthetic sort of footwear. We do those kind of things as well. I have a workshop again in Bombay. I also manufacture in a factory in Vasai. So that is my setup. As far as handling the label is concerned, being an entrepreneur is extremely challenging. But it has its highs and lows. It has its challenges, but it also has its immense rewards. So while you don't, get a ka-ching in your bank account every month, which is your short salary, whatever wins you have, they are always magnified because it's all your effort. It's you're not doing something because somebody asked you to do it. You're doing it purely out of passion. So in that sense, it's extremely rewarding. And we work with a bunch of stylists. We design a lot of footwear for Bollywood. We've been lucky enough to have a lot of the big stars wear our footwear. I don't have a PR and a marketing agency. I do everything myself because I feel like my experience in media over the years taught me how to network. It taught me how to never take no for an answer. It taught me how to engage with people. So I do that. I enjoy designing. I have a workshop where I love sitting with the karigars and working out new designs. I love to look out for new avenues of sales because, at the end of the day, you can make great footwear, but you also have to sell it. That's how you make money. So just to find different avenues of sales, that's been exciting. It's again something that I use from my media background of sales. And of course, the pandemic happened 2 years back. It's been a really, really challenging time, especially for footwear, I would say for every fashion label, it's been a challenging time. For every business, it's been a challenging time, especially small businesses like ours. But especially for footwear, I would think it's been extra challenging because when you're not stepping out of the house, you are only in chappals, and at the most you'll have a pair of sneakers that you're going to wear every day when you step out. You're not really looking for formal footwear. You're not looking for variety of footwear. So it's been a challenging time for us, but somehow we have powered through, and now things are again looking up. But fingers crossed. Let's hope good times come back again, and people really start shopping, and we can get rid of the variants, and things can open up. So that's my journey in short or in long, I don't know, but that's my journey. And so yeah, and I also work with an NGO. That is something that I would want to add, because this is again something, when I was in my corporate job, I never had the time. I was working from morning till night, and especially media jobs are very demanding on your time. But once I started my business, I was very clear that when you're your own boss, you have the flexibility of time. How do you manage your own time? So I was very, very, very keen that I wanted to give back in some way, because I feel I've been very fortunate to get opportunities in my life. We're all privileged in some shape or form. So, and I think maybe that happens also as you grow older. You start looking for a deeper meaning to your life. You start looking for a deeper purpose, that how can I give back. So then I started working with an NGO called Angel Express Foundation. They are all over Bombay. I work with their the branch which is closest to my house, and we work with slum children. We teach them English, math, and life skills. And this doesn't require much time. I teach them about 3 to 4 times a week for 3 hours, and during the morning time when I'm freer, before my studio and all opens up. So yeah, that's what we do. We also work with a few orphanages to provide free shoes to their residents, to the girls. So that is in some shape or form how I try to give back. The other thing that I've consciously tried to do is build in, fairer practices into my business. So while I don't think that any business today can be completely sustainable, I don't think it's possible. But we have tried to build in sustainable ways of manufacturing. We try not to mass manufacture because I think it's bad for the environment. There's a lot of wastage. We try to do bespoke. We try to do made to order stuff. We also try to use all our manufacturing is local. We try to revive some local artisanship. We work with the local sourcing agents. So, the idea is to generate some sort of employment. And especially at times like this, I think it's very important that we look locally and we buy local and manufacture locally. So yeah, that's me. And I would love if you guys have any questions or anything at all you want to discuss. I would be happy to answer. Or Neha, you can start by asking me something. Okay, Rishita, hi.
Hi, Kavita ma'am. Actually, I was sort of like lost when you were speaking because this is something which I'd even written in my essay, the essay which we had to write to the university for admission. I had a lot of things in that essay. I had philanthropy, like I want to work with an NGO, which you're doing. Then I'm very fascinated by the media job because my father also, he's working in the sales department with the Walt Disney Company, then
Oh,
having
lovely.
your own business. So it was all so much I could relate to. But like now I'm 18 years old, and if I wish to traverse the same path as you, what advice or a few pointers if you have to give me, like how should I start, where to start, what would that be?
Wow, that's a very
Then again,
huge.
one more similarity. I'm
Huh.
also into fashion. I love dressing up. I change my dresses 3 to 4 times a day. I even dress up before sleeping. I have very particular night dresses that, okay, I have to wear this, I don't have to wear this.
Sure, sure,
So I
sure.
could resonate with every point of yours.
That's lovely. Nice to know, Rishita. I think at 18, if you're confused, I think that's half the battle won. Let me be very honest with you. It's good to be confused because, when you're confused, your mind is open to different options. Sometimes when you're sure, this is what I want to do, I'm 100% sure about this, then you're actually sometimes shutting out options because as you grow, as you evolve as a person, who you are at 18, you're going to be a totally different person by the time you're 25. And I can bet on that because the way the world is changing, the kind of exposure, of course, you guys have much more exposure than we had at that age. But I think it's good to be confused because you're keeping your options open. So, you spoke about fashion, you spoke about media, you also spoke about philanthropy. I think definitely keep your options open and take life as it comes. If there is some opportunity that comes your way, grab it with both your hands. But keep your options open because you don't know what you're going to feel like doing. You also don't know how the world is evolving, right? There may be some opportunities that come your way that may seem very, very exciting at that time. Maybe something in the media space and or something in fashion. You don't know what you're going to pursue. And today, I think there are a few options where you can take subjects together, right? You can take something in marketing, and you can take something in you can do like a course in fashion on the side. I believe there are multiple options today which we didn't have those opportunities in our time. But what I would say is if you take something like a marketing, it will help you in both. Whether you launch your own business tomorrow, or you want to join a company in a fashion magazine, for example, or you want to join media, marketing will always help you. So just learn the basics of that, basics of selling. And let me tell you about selling. No matter what you're doing in life, you're always selling, right? No matter what you're doing, you're always selling. So those skills will always come handy. As far as philanthropy is concerned, if you want to make a full-time career at an NGO, more power to you. But I feel that you can, in a different career, also pursue philanthropy on the side. You can volunteer with organizations. There is enough and more options today. I think if somebody wants to give back, there is no dearth of options in India. I mean, look around us. I would say 90% of the people are worse off than you. So there are enough options, whether you want to do something for the environment. Today, I look at students like you guys are so environmentally conscious. You want to help organize cleanup drives. You want to work with the slum kids. You want to teach them singing, dancing, photography, some skill that you have that they don't have access to. You can work at an old age home. You can work at an orphanage. You can do so many things. So that philanthropy can always be done on the side. And should you feel that, oh my God, this is my life's mission, then you can start even doing it full time. But I think you're too young right now to decide. I think you should take it as it comes. Do something where you have the option to tomorrow do either of those things. And clarity will come at some point in your life. And that is when you can take that hard call that this is what I want to do and this is what I don't want to do. That's my advice.
Ma'am, one more thing, like you said, whenever you get an opportunity, grab it with both of your hands. But we can't sit and wait that, okay, some opportunity would come. Like, as an 18-year-old, if I want to just work as an intern, maybe with some upcoming company, that would teach me the basics. How are they thinking? How are they marketing their product? But why would they take me? Like, I do not have any degree. I do not have any specialized skills. So, how to go
Sure.
about this idea? How to convince them, okay, take me so that I can learn and maybe contribute them as well in some way or the other.
See, I'll tell you very honestly, at this age, people are just going to give you a chance, right? They're not going to say, oh, you're the one. You're right, because, you're still developing your skill sets. There is a certain amount of price people put on experience as well. So while I was doing my MBA, I have done a lot of things. I have sold newspaper ads from shop to shop. I have sold hobby class products in slum areas. I have sold, when I was working with Pidilite, I was doing a project. I will have worked with Marico, where I have sold olive oil at Kirana shops. So no work is small. Start somewhere. And if you're good, opportunities will come, right? And there is no such thing as a small job. I've done everything, and I genuinely don't think there is no shame in doing any sort of work, and there will come a point in your life where the dots will connect. So there is this, if you guys have not watched, you must watch this speech that Steve Jobs gave at Stanford graduation. I don't know if any of you guys have watched it. It's one of my favorite speeches of all time, and very inspiring. And he says in that speech that you will never see as you look forward in life, you'll never see the dots connecting, but you will see the dots connecting as you look backwards in life. That, oh, I did this and then this happened, and because of that this happened, right? So if you have a passion for something, don't settle for less, but at the same time keep going, keep doing things, because the dots when you look back will always connect. So today I'm doing my own entrepreneurship, and I have a shoe business. But when I look back, there are so many skills that I learned in media that I'm using today. At that time I didn't know that at what point will I use this, but today I'm using it, right? So when you look back, the dots will always connect. So at your age, I would say, whatever work you do it with full passion. Don't worry about if I'm doing this, what will happen tomorrow? It is not leading me to my goal. No, just do your work with complete diligence, do it with full passion, and at some point the dots will connect. So that's my advice.
Thank you, ma'am. Thanks a lot.
Most welcome.
This is brilliant. Any other questions? I have a question, Kavita. You were in your family's eye, you were almost a doctor,
Yeah.
but you didn't. You became a microbiologist. You studied that. I don't know if you became one, but you studied one. Then you moved into MBA. Okay. What made you move from one to the other? One was your zeal to keep doing things. I'm sure, like you've just said that. But is there anything from your school life that like when I say school, I mean like graduation and then post graduation, that you think you learned and it helped you along? And how have they become layers, and you've become like an onion and now you can use them in different parts of life? Or do you think that, oh, school was okay, I didn't do anything of that, but whatever I learned in media is the only thing that I'm carrying with me?
Right. So I always joke with my husband that we've learned trigonometry in school. We are never going to use trigonometry in our lives. Okay. So I feel like, a lot of the things that are taught in school, so while they are important, a lot of them, you're not going to use trigonometry in your life, right? So anyway, that's just a joke. But I feel like, the first question that you asked me about moving from microbiology to MBA. So I think I'm actually very grateful to a couple of my professors when I was doing my microbiology. Again, I was doing well. So, when you're doing well in something, that's also a double-edged sword. Because if you're doing well, then you're expected to continue doing that. Because itna acha kar rahe ho, to you should continue. But, and then to tell people, no, while I'm doing well, I don't want to do this, then it's a challenge. If you flunk and you say, I can't do this, then people say, okay, no loss, no problem. So I was doing well, but, I had a couple of professors, and when you're doing microbiology, it's a small batch of students. So we were all very close. And they, in fact, told me that we think you should do an MBA. Because you're meant for marketing. You're the kind of personality you have. You love talking, you love interacting with people, and all of that. And I would give speeches and those kind of things. Like they were like, you are somebody who will do better in a people's people's person. So in that kind of a job. So they actually called my parents to college and actually had a conversation with them. Because my parents, if I didn't have the guts to go and tell them I don't want to continue. So they actually called my parents and they said, we'll talk to them. And they actually convinced my dad. So I was forever will always be grateful to them. But yeah, definitely. I think every skill set that you acquire, even in school, right? And I'm not talking about theory. I'm not talking about what you study. But, there are other skill sets that you acquire, whether it's how you interact with people, how you convince people, problem solving, how you fight challenges, those kind of things. I mean, it's throughout our lives, right? Even in school days, how you handle stress during exams, all those things, the way you develop your personality, the way you handle those things, they'll see you through your entire life, those skill sets that you develop early on. So definitely, I feel when you look back, whatever you have learned in your life, whether it's school, college, it all adds up. It all helps you somewhere. So even in microbiology, it helps you working in isolation. Being an entrepreneur is a very isolating job. It's not like, you're going to a corporate and, you have an office with 20 people and there are water cooler conversations happening and all of that. Entrepreneur means you're sitting alone and you're working alone. You'll have clients coming in, you'll have a little team, but essentially it's a isolating job. So I feel like my time in microbiology helped me. Also, when I'm designing, it's a very focused job, right? And you have to be perfect in what you're doing. You can't be thoda idhar udhar ho gaya to full shoe design goes for a toss. So those kind of things also, because in microbiology, you're sitting hunched over a microscope, studying microorganisms for hours on end. So I feel somewhere, your skill sets develop by whatever education you're doing. But I firmly believe that if you discover a passion for something in your life, you could discover it at 18, you can discover it at 35. You don't have to think about, okay, oh, I studied this, how can I do this? No, it should not limit you. You should be able to pursue whatever you can, if you unless you have financial constraints, but in some shape or form, if you can pursue your passion, you must do it. You owe it to yourself to do it, and that is the field that you will always excel in.
Thank you. You said some brilliant things about that, every bit in life has taught you something, whether it was studying in college or classes that has prepped you up to be self-inspired, self-driven as an entrepreneur. Your marketing MBA has helped you in media syndication and now is helping you in your current business.
Absolutely.
So that's a brilliant point. And I think you briefly touched upon one point where you said that, you were not an entrepreneur or a startup entrepreneur as today's startup entrepreneurs are expected to be at the age of 21, 22. So what do you have to say to that? Because a lot of us are under stress that if I've crossed the 20-something age, the miracle age of 20-something, I may not be able to become someone. So do you have any wisdom or any experiences that you can share on that line?
Yeah, definitely. I think, so I started my entrepreneurial journey at 35. I launched it around 36, 37. So definitely that's not the ideal age to do it. But I feel like, you have one life. If you have a dream, even if it comes to you later in life. Because earlier I didn't have the money also to launch my business. It was not possible for me. Right? It's only after I had the savings, I had the confidence, I had the little security that I was able to do it. But I feel, you imagine you're lying on a deathbed and you look back and you think, oh shit, I wish I had done this. And I had not spent my entire life doing something I didn't want to do. At least now I can say that, okay, I spent 10 years doing something, but I spent the rest of my life doing something I wanted to do. So I always believe that today is the youngest you're ever going to be. Right? So if you believe that today is the youngest you're ever going to be, you're never going to be afraid to take the plunge. Right? Because let not history, let not age constrict you. Okay, oh, I did this, now I can't do this. Or, oh, I am so old. My friend, when he launched something, he was half my age. It doesn't matter. If you're passionate, you get the right breaks, you make use of all the opportunities that come your way. You can always make it in life, no matter what age. In fact, I was doing this talk where I had put together a bunch of people. Vera Wang. Vera Wang is a dress designer. Veda is nodding. Yes. So she has made. She makes wedding dresses. So right from Victoria Beckham to Kim Kardashian have worn her dresses. And she was a journalist. She designed her first dress when she was 40. Can you imagine? And she's so big today. And there is also Martha Stewart, the domestic goddess and, the serial entrepreneur. And she's like the face of, domesticated bliss in America. She was a model. And then she She was also, I think, a journalist, and then she started her catering business at the age of 35 from her basement. And closer home, you guys must have heard of Baman Irani, right? The one from Munna Bhai MBBS. He's such a brilliant actor. He did his first movie at 41. And look at him today. So, even in your 30s and 40s, you still have a long way to go. So I don't think you should ever worry about how old you are, because today is the youngest you'll ever be. So whenever you take the plunge, is never too late. So the other thing that I always believe in is that you're never too young to begin, and you're never too old to begin again.
Say that again, please. It's a very strong saying.
You're never too young to begin, and you're never too old to begin again.
Very nice. When you were taking names, I was just thinking the famous author of Fire and Ice, George R.R. Martin. At 80, he made his debut.
Yes, anyway. And see where his series went.
Yes, see where it is. So yeah, that's lovely actually. Anyone else has a question? Please go ahead.
Hi, I'm Vedha.
Hi, Vedha.
It's a very nice journey, and I just had to say I love your jewelry. Yeah, so my question to you is, you mentioned that you were financially stable when you decided to start your company. So for a person who isn't financially stable right now, or when they want to start a company, would you advise them to, get another job and, gather their own funds, or maybe take a loan or something? What kind of advice would you give on finances when starting your own business?
Definitely, people take loans all the time. If you believe in your idea, and you can even look for investors at some point if the idea is strong. While I do believe that you need it's good to do a job and have your savings, but let me tell you something about entrepreneurship. It's always a risk. No matter what age you are, no matter how much money you have, it's always a risk. In fact, when I was launching, I kept procrastinating for months because I was so scared. I was like, I'll fail. All my money will go down the drain. And I remember reading somewhere that the biggest impediment to entrepreneurship is procrastination. People keep saying, if this happens, then I'll quit. If this happens, then I'll quit. If this happens, then I will launch my business. So they keep waiting and they keep waiting and they keep waiting. Like once I have this much money, I'll do it. Or once I get this break, I'll do it. Or once I get an investor, I'll do it. So I think it is entrepreneurship, honestly, is diving into the deep end of the pool, no matter what your age, no matter what your financial status, right? It is always going to be a risk. Because the kind of job security that comes with having a stable job, you're not going to have that in entrepreneurship, at least in the first few years. It's always going to be a risk. So definitely there are options today. If it is a strong idea, today angel investors have become a big thing, right? People who are always looking for fresh ideas. And the younger the person, they believe because young people are not afraid. They have fresh ideas. So angel investors are always looking for people like that. So if you can find somebody like that who believes in your idea, who's willing to put money where his mouth is, why not? People take loans to study. You can even take a loan today. Banks are offering loans to somebody who wants to set up a business, and of course having some savings to fall back on is very important. And being women, I see a lot of women here. We think that okay, I can be my husband will have a stable career and I can do something on my own. But financial stability, even for women, is extremely important, because you may think that once I get married, it'll be stable, or all of those things. But you need to have your own bank account. You need to have your own balance. You need to have your own financial security. So once basics are taken care of, I think definitely taking loans, things like that, are an option. Finding an investor is a big option today.
Thank you.
Kavita, I have a question. Rather, it's not even a question, more like, probably a combination, because you have answered some part of it, when you answered the other questions. Wasn't it daunting for you to think of giving up a steady, assured paycheck at the end of the month and get into something, uncertain? So what kind of support did you receive from your family? Because there are times, when people like us who are in full-time jobs, have been in full-time jobs for ages, sometimes we think that, I'm the kind of effort I'm putting in this job. If I start something of my own and,
Absolutely.
in the same, kind of hours and, effort, probably I'll be quite successful kind of a thing. But then, like you said, taking the plunge is not very easy. What do you think? I mean, do
Absolutely.
you attribute it to some kind of support from family, or it is
Yes.
all your own doing?
No, I won't say it was all my own doing. One thing is that had a stable job, right? And also, like you rightly pointed out, I think the biggest impediment to entrepreneurship is also when you're in a steady job, no, you're in that monotony. You're on the treadmill. It's very difficult to get off the treadmill, right? To say that, okay, now I'm going to quit. There has to be some sort of something that happens that kind of pushes you in that direction, right? So for me, honestly, the trigger was coming for a very long time where I was like, I need to do this, I need to do this. And finally, when I decided, my father was so upset with me, he refused to talk to me. Okay. He said, you're a fool because you have a great job. You've worked in media for so many years. Why would you give that up to start something on your own? But I was very lucky because my husband supported me. Okay, he said, if this is what you want to do it. And I honestly didn't take myself so seriously. I'll tell you what is the attitude that I had. I said, I'm going to try it. I'm going to give it a year or 2 years. If it doesn't work, I'll get another job. I I was like that. I was very positive, and I was like, yeah, it may not work. It may not work. I was realistic about it, but at the same time, I was very optimistic. Like, okay, even if it doesn't work, I'll get a job. I didn't want a situation where after 10, 15, 20, 30 years of doing my job, I look back and say, I had that dream, I didn't pursue it. And slowly my father also came around. My mother also came around because my parents have always been in secure jobs. My dad has been in the pharmaceutical industry. My mother has been a teacher for years. So they don't understand. We are not from a business background, so they don't understand business. And we always look at business as something, risky. So they always discouraged me. But then I think once I'd made up my mind, and my husband supported me. He said, "Do what you have to do, and I'm with you." So that's when I decided to quit. And I was like, "Dekha jayega yaar, nahi chala to I'll take up another job." So I was very optimistic in that sense. And I think you have to be, because if you're too scared, no, you'll never take a chance. So I just kept thinking of 15 years from now, if I look back at this time and I feel, I could have, why didn't I? So I said, at least it's good to have tried and failed than never to have tried at all. So yeah.
Good evening, ma'am.
Hi.
So I want to ask, what do you think your formal education has helped you in particular? Because there are many people who don't, who want to start a business or who want to start their own company very soon, like without any formal education. They think that they have the skills.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what has the, formal education, how has it helped you in particular? And what do you think would be the difference between somebody who has just started, their own business after schooling versus somebody who is, studied and has work experience before, actually starting their own company like you?
Right. So there are 2-3 things. One is, while formal education helps you get a job, okay, that's very important. A job gives you the experience if you want to start something on your own. You can start something on your own even without education. But the mistakes you will make will be far more expensive, right? Because it's your own money. Why not make mistakes with somebody else's money than with your own money? So I feel is that the journey that I have, I'm not saying it's ideal. You can today start business on your own. You will make mistakes, no problem. Everybody makes mistakes. But the journey I had, and I can speak for myself, is that my education was very important because it helped me get a job. It helps you get a foot in the door. There are a lot of jobs that don't give you, that don't even consider you if you're not, say, if you're not an MBA or you don't have this much percentage or whatever, you don't get that job, right? Because they expect you to have certain amount of, skill set or knowledge that you may have acquired while doing your course. So that helped me get my job. My job trained me for my entrepreneurship like nothing else. So today, a lot of people ask me that, oh, do you have a marketing and PR agency? Because, you have all these actors wearing your stuff and I know most labels have, but I don't have because I don't think I need. I tried to get one and I felt like I could do a better job than those people because during my years of working, I had done those things, right? So I use that knowledge, I use that skill set, whatever it may be. It could be soft skill, a hard skill, whatever. I use those skill sets to, today they help me immensely in my entrepreneurship. How to organize events. So we do a lot of exhibitions we participate in, how to go about doing that. All of those things I learned while I was in my job, and my job I got because of my education. So yes, definitely you can. Today I see a lot of teenagers starting off, and I know a lot of people. But if you need to have a skill set, right? If you have a great skill set, maybe you're a great baker, or you're a singer. You want to start your own recording studio or something, or whatever. Or you have a family background in something, right? Maybe your parents are into garment manufacturing or something. So you have some pedigree that you can use. Then you don't need education because वो आपको घर पे education मिल रही है. Your parents will educate you more than what you can get educated outside. But if you don't have all of that, then definitely education helps you to get a job. And also, tomorrow if your business doesn't work, you have your education to fall back on. Right? That's why I had the confidence to do it, because I knew I had the pedigree. I knew even if my business fails, I can get a job. I may not get a great job. I may not get a job that I want, but I can get a job. So that confidence that came from education. Because at the end of the day, they're going to look at your qualification. What is your qualification? How much have you studied? And that does help. That's why a lot of people, even if they go into professional careers, their parents always tell them that, get a basic education, so that that's something you can always fall back on.
Kavita, I think that was a very nice point you said about, education is important, and maybe I'm a little more old school. I believe that you may have had any education in your life. It'll always come into use in some form or shape at some time. Like, when I was at school, I remember distinctively, like, why do I have to read about kingdoms in the north? And why do I have to learn about the temple and the architectures and all these things? I have nothing to do with it. And I still have no inclination. But, when you start growing up, and like you said, that when you go back, things start making sense. Then you're studying English. And you realize, oh, because of this historical invasion, this word came into being, and so on and so forth. So thank you so much. I have another question.
Correct. Yeah.
The risks that an entrepreneur take, one is definitely money going down the drain, the project failing. Right. What is it, the other thing in your business that you were very worried about, and how you overcame those? Any particular skill set, any particular training that allowed you to be? Or why don't you look at, okay, I have a parallel question after. If nobody is asking, then I'll ask. But this is my first question. Yeah.
So, sorry, what was your question to that? What are the problems that I anticipate?
The problems, one is anticipated, and the risks, which is, so one risk is constant in anything that one does. I'm going to fail. It's not going to work out.
Yeah.
Barring that, what were the other risks that you overcame, and how?
So, there are a lot of risks. Yeah, one is, of course, you're investing. The first couple of years you're investing. It's only then you start, reaping the benefits of your investment. When, you're obviously I have invested in my education, in my shoe designing courses that I did, right? Then I had a studio. Then I had a workshop. Then I had to come up with the packaging. Then I had to come up with the website. And I mean, there are multiple things that go into play when you're starting your own business. And money is just going out. There is no money coming in, right? So imagine you're going from a secure job to that, where secure job money is only coming in. This is everything is going out. So, you need to have a plan in place. You have to have a certain kitty that you've set aside saying that, okay, this is so. While I was worried about that, I kind of knew my plan and I knew I'm going to stick to it. But the worry, the risk that comes in when you're saying there are some other expenses that come in which you don't account for, because this is a new field for you. You don't know. Okay, then suddenly somebody will say, okay, maybe you should also do this. Maybe you need this. So you're like, oh, I didn't account for this, right? So those kind of risks do come in. The other risk that comes in is, I think, when you're a designer, is the churn, right? People keep expecting you to churn out collection after collection after collection. Okay. And that is while it is heavy on the pocket, it is also heavy on you creatively. So one of my biggest worries was that I will have a mental block. I will not be able to churn out things, ideas. I will run into a sort of a dearth of ideas. I won't have fresh ideas. So those risks I always had. I always had a risk of how will people receive my collection. So while I love what I'm doing, will people also love it? Because at the end of the day, entrepreneurship is selling. You're not going to make the shoe and keep it in a museum and admire it every day, right? You have to sell it. You want people to like it. You want people to know about it. So that, and plus, I wasn't really that much worried about the marketing part of it, because I felt like, I wouldn't be able to do it, but I didn't realize how challenging it would be, because this market is full of brands, right? And to be able to stand out, to be able to have some sort of a recall value, to build that space in people's minds, that was a big challenge for me. But one thing I realized that if you keep at it, then you'll have 5 bad days, and then you'll have that one good day when something will happen, right? So but you have to keep at it. Like, I remember, I'll give you an instance. I really wanted Alia Bhatt to wear my shoes. Like, I really wanted her to wear my shoes, and I didn't have a stylist. I didn't have anybody's number. I just knew I wanted her to wear my shoes, and she was my favorite actor, and also felt like, fashion-wise, I felt like she was really like there, and I wanted her to wear my shoes. So while there were other stars who had worn it, and then finally I got her number her stylist number from someone, and I wrote to her. There was no response. I wrote to her, I think maybe 10-15 times. There was no response. Then one day, they got in touch with me. One of the junior stylists got in touch with me saying that there is a shoot and do you want to send your shoes for Alia? So I was like, yeah, sure. I mean, of course. So I sent my shoes, and she didn't wear them. So she wore something else. So then they said, oh, it didn't go with the outfit or whatever. I was like, no problem. Then they called me again. They said, there's another shoot. So I sent it again. Again, she didn't wear it. So I was like, so there's a lot of disappointment. But at the same time, you have to realize that if you want something to happen, then you have to keep trying. Then I remember one day I got a call. It was in the middle of the day. I was sitting with some clients, and some wedding clients. They wanted some bespoke stuff. And I was sitting with them, and I got a call from Film City in Goregaon saying that there is a shoot which is happening right now, and we don't have shoes. And suddenly there's an outfit change, and we need shoes for Alia. Will you be able to send? I was like, I'll send it right away. So I sent it, she wore it, she bought it. She loved it so much, she bought it. And then after that, she bought a bunch of shoes from us, and she wore them everywhere. And that does help, because, when she wears it and people tag it, and, it gives you publicity and all of that. So, I also feel like there will be problems, there will be delays in your plans. But if you are at it and you keep at it, sooner or later, a lot of people tell me, oh, how did you do it? We spoke and she didn't do it. I said, do you know how many times I have tried? So you have to keep trying for these things. If you want something to happen, it's not going to happen like this, and you can't give up. If you really want it, you have to keep doing, and you don't have to have an ego. Okay, oh, this one said no to me, now I will not do it. If you want it, it's for you. You want it, then you have to keep doing it. So yeah.
Ma'am, I have one query in this when you said that you have to keep urging the other person.
Yeah.
Like, one thing is that maybe your ego comes in between, that, okay, I've asked this person once, twice, thrice. But there's this fear also. What if you're annoying the other person, asking them
Yeah,
again
yeah,
and
yeah.
again?
Yeah, you
So,
feel.
what's the solution for it? Like, you are asking them also, and you're not annoying them also.
So, this business is such, the business that I am in, that people get annoyed and they forget also. Because, see, nobody takes anything personally. Everybody knows you're doing it for your business, right? You are doing it for your business. I'm doing it for my business. We're all women supporting other women. So there are times when people get irritated with you, like, or they may block you. It's easy to block people today. Say this person is irritating me, I want to block that person. So it happens. So at times, I mean, you just have to take a call. I mean, don't irritate them too much, but at the same time, you can irritate them a little. So I push my luck as much as I can. And I think also being polite, saying thank you, saying please. Also, another thing that I'm very, very careful about is I don't feel that just because I am a label or, I've been around for a few years, people owe me anything. Nobody owes you anything. They are doing their job, you're doing your job. So a lot of people say, "Arey, why are you not using my shoes?" And something. No, nothing. They don't owe you anything. Nobody owes anybody anything. So if you go with that approach, you'll always be polite, you will always be grateful, and you will always be professional. So in this field, no, professionalism is appreciated a lot. So if there's anybody who says, "I'll deliver it at 5 o'clock," and they deliver it at 5 o'clock, people appreciate that. So there will be times people will get irritated, but it's part and parcel of, I mean, it's a part and parcel of life. So you have to take your chances. Depends on how badly you want something.
I have another question, ma'am. So when you were 18, was it, was there any peer pressure of, not actually figuring out what you want in life or anything of that sort? Because personally speaking, I've had that thought many times, and I am not really sure what I want to do. But I think you are one of the many living examples who, discovered their purpose in life a little later. And, so what is your opinion on that? Is it all right? Or have you ever felt that, have you ever felt scared comparing yourself to others, saying that, okay, they already have this idea, they already want to take up this degree, or they want to start a business? I've had that thought many times over the past 2-3 years. So,
Right.
and I want to explore my options. And I know that it's an advantage, but at the same time, sometimes it feels like I'm lagging behind or something like that. So what do you think about
Do I
that?
look back and wish that at 18 I knew that I wanted to be a shoe designer? Yeah, I wish. I wish because, I would have had so many years of, but would I have been in the same position I am in? I don't know. Maybe by 25, I would have got burnt out and I would have said, no, I don't want to do this. It's not exciting enough. Maybe that wasn't the time for me. So I think at 18, you should feel zero pressure to take a call about your career. And please do not compare yourself to anybody else. Don't compare yourself to anybody else. And I can tell you this, and I'm sure Neha will corroborate as well. When I look back at my college life and I look back at my school life, there were these kids they knew exactly what they wanted. They were the ones with the clarity and with all the gyan, and they were intelligent and they knew exactly, I'll do this, then I'll go to this college, then I'll go to this country, and then and we were clueless. We didn't know what we wanted to do. But that's why the world was our oyster, because we were willing to try anything. We didn't know what we wanted to do, but we knew what we didn't want to do. Right? Sometimes that's okay. You may not know exactly what you want to do, but I know these 5 things I don't want to do. I knew I don't want to be a scientist. I was very clear about that. What else I want to do? As life comes by, I will discover. So what I was saying about the students who had full clarity, no, I look at them today sometimes and I feel like, what a boring life. Or maybe they're not as successful. I'm not saying that is a prerequisite or whatever, but I'm saying at what you are at 18, you don't know where you will be in life tomorrow. So they were kids who were completely clueless all the time, like enjoying or whatever, but they found their calling at some point in their life. And today they are doing so well for themselves. So I feel what you're at 18 no, is not a reflection of where you will be when you're older. So it's okay to be confused, because you will keep trying new things. And today, especially for our kids today, I feel you should have no pressure, because there are so many options. I would think there's something wrong if you're not confused, because it's too early. Because as you grow, you will discover things about yourself, about your personality, things that you like. You may discover tomorrow that I have a passion for cooking, which you may not discover today. You may not have it today. Or you may discover some instrument, or you may discover something, some stream of studies, which, maybe you read about or you hear about somebody else doing, and you try it, and then you say, oh my God, this is my calling. This is what I want to do. So and that will happen only when you're open to something. So be open to things. You're too young right now to even worry about it, and don't look at anybody else, because everybody's journey is very, very unique. If somebody had told me at 18 that, you would do this and then you would do that and then you would be a shoe designer, I would have said, what? I would have said, what's a shoe design? I don't even know what that is, right? I mean, is there such a thing? Because in those days, there wasn't such a thing. So yeah, grow, evolve. As life goes by, you will be interested in new things. Be open to it. 18 is too young to take a call about the rest of your life, for sure.
Thank you, ma'am.
Ma'am, when you say that don't compare yourselves with others, I think how to deal with jealousy. Like you may not be jealous with some other stranger, you don't know them, but I feel jealousy and comparison comes with your inner circle. Like I have my best friend, maybe let's say for example, and she's doing great, and I being of her age only, and I don't know, I'm confused. So how to deal that equation, because then it starts affecting your relationship with that person.
Yeah.
How to you know that you don't have to be jealous, okay, you don't have to compare yourselves, we know all this, but still
See,
we
jealousy
compare
is...
ourselves with that inner circle only, within the same house only we start comparing ourselves.
Yeah, that's very common. It happens in families. It happens with friends. Today, I am an entrepreneur. I may have a friend who's another entrepreneur, and her business may be doing better than mine. And I actually, at my age, or maybe it's something I've learned the hard way. I think jealousy, instead of jealousy, if you can get inspired by such a person, inspired by their journey, inspired by their thoughts, inspired by their clarity. I mean, I don't think jealousy should come into a picture, especially if it's your best friend. It should be rather, you should ask Neha, because we are a bunch of 4-5 friends who are very, very close. And we have all had our own journeys, our own life paths. But maybe a bit of envy sometimes I could feel for somebody, but I never feel jealous, because I feel, wow, another lady doing even better than me, how inspiring. What is it that she's doing that I'm not doing, and is there something I can learn from her? And so definitely you can get inspired, but jealousy will then just, it's that crab mentality. I'm not doing well, so let me pull the other person down, and that doesn't help anybody. Rather get inspired. And but this one thing you said about getting jealous because somebody has clarity in their career, that means nothing to me. Because at 18, if you have clarity, that's great. I think that's wonderful. My nephew is 18. He is very clear that he wants to become a chef. So he's getting into hotel management. Very good. He's doing that. But will I be surprised if maybe 5 years later he says, no, I don't want to do this, I want to do something else? No. So it's good to have clarity, but at the same time, you have to have an open book. You have to realize that maybe at some point you may want to do something else. There are people who pursue that one thing all their lives. And I think that's great. They have a head start in life. But is everybody's journey the same? No. But how early you start, how late you start, when you get clarity, that doesn't define your success rate at all. Otherwise, people like who started off late in life would have never been successful. So experience does count, but it's not everything. It's also your talents, also your passion. So it doesn't matter when you start.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
If there are no more questions, should we just give a formal vote of thanks to Kavita?
Thank you.
No, Kavita, really, it was, I think all of us, when I say all of us, I mean the students and, we've had a series of talk since almost a month now, closing into a month. And I think this was one of those few sessions outside of one lady that we spoke to, Rachel. It's been a very candid conversation, and I think the students take to candor because there is an honesty of experience and truth that comes along. So that's really nice. And thank you so much for sharing your life with us. And
Thank you, Neha.
a few things that I have taken away from this is that, at any point of time in your life you're always learning. And whatever you learn today will always be with you for the next step in your life at some point of time, in some shape, some format, some disguise, some way. So thank you for validating that principle of life, that nothing goes wasted, nothing goes meaningless. And thank you for sparing the time and talking to our inaugural cohort. They are enthusiastic. Most of them are inspired. And thank you again.
Thank
for
you
doing
so
that.
much, guys. Thanks, Neha. Thanks, girls, for all your questions, and the quiet boys. But thanks, everyone. And I just want to say, you guys are young. Don't worry. Don't stress. Enjoy every day. Enjoy what you're doing. Please, if there's one thing if I could go back in life, I would say I wish I had not worried so much, because whatever has to happen will happen. When your calling is there, when you know what you have to do, you will do it. So don't stress, don't worry, don't be jealous. Enjoy your life, live in the moment. I think if anything, the last 2 years of the pandemic has taught us is to live in the moment, because you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Enjoy what you're doing at that point of time. Learn what you're doing at that point of time. At any point in your life, it will help you. And you mark my words, it will help you. So don't be stressed at all. All the best. And you all are in good hands at Sai University. So wish you the very best. And if at any point you all want to reach out, or I don't know, anything at all, please do so. I'm always available. Lots of love.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much, ma'am.
Neha. Thank you so
Bye-bye.
much.
Thank you.
Thanks.